Midas Letter RAW. What a show we got for you today. It's going to blow your mind. We've got the biggest of the best, the best of the biggest. It's going to be crazy. Turn your mic.
Jesus.
Oh.
You know what? I can't block my ears, so I'm going to cover my eyes a little bit.
Really? Hey, how you doing? Can you tell I just ran from across the street? I was sitting on the patio over at Bymark with Bruce Linton. You know Bruce Linton?
I'd like to meet him. I hear he's a quality guy.
He's a hell of a guy.
Your cousin met him today, and
he's a hell of a guy. He's going to come here and he's going to do a hit with us today. Well, with me. He's very particular.
Well, what about me?
Yeah, he's a man of the people.
What about me?
He's a man of the people.
What about me?
He's a man of the people. He talks to everybody. The great thing about Bruce is, so we went to shoot an interview with him at the MJ Biz conference today.
Right.
And he says at the end of his presentation, if anybody wants to ask me anything, I'll be right out front here in front of the presentation.
Right. How do you know I'm looking at you with these dark glasses on?
Well, where else are you going to be looking?
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you.
Here's looking at you, kid. Now, why are you wearing dark glasses, Ed?
Just to, funk it up a bit.
Okay, it's not because you're like high as a kite or anything.
Me? Moi?
You.
Moi? No, but I had lunch with our buddy Blady. I got to tell you this, okay?
Tell me the story. We're talking about Golden Ridge here, GLDN. We own it. We are conflicted. This is not...
We are conflicted.
We're conflicted.
I got to tell you, it takes me a while to get really excited, but this could be, when you listen to him and he's got that, that sort of West Virginia drawl,
West Virginia drawl? He's from Kelowna.
I'm trying to relate to all the viewers here, okay?
Okay. Oh, who's from West Virginia? Put up your emoji.
If you know anybody from West Virginia, tell them to start watching because... So anyway, to make a long story short...
I think you're making a short story long.
I know. I don't want to turn this into a novel, okay?
All right, why don't we just cut to the punchline? GLDN.
If GLDN closes above 35 cents today, preferably near the end,
It's at 36 right now.
Yeah. This is very bullish. This is technically very bullish. Very bullish.
We got the chart up over here.
Where?
Right here.
I don't see it.
No, I don't either. What's going on? Hang on. Control room says hang on. Whoa, whoosh. There we go.
Yeah, you see that little...
Now, we have one problem here, Ed, with this whole theory. The relative strength index is down here in the lower corner at almost 80.
Oof.
And what's that? A technical sign to stop buying and start selling.
No, that's, look at... Well, yeah, okay.
And this is where fundamentals are always going to overwhelm technicals when there is a fundamental development, because a technical chart cannot see into the future.
Well, like we saw the other day, people were saying short weed at 32. They got their ass shot off.
Short weed at 32.
I heard that the night before, and the next day they came out and said,
Constellation, short weed at 32. That's what those guys are doing now.
Yeah, why don't you just take the gun and just aim right there?
Did your pecker fall off when you're having Yeah, exactly.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Technical analysis, but if something develops fundamentally, it's going to override that. But the first thing it'll affect is the price action.
Yeah, so the RSI is over 80. We know there are fundamentals coming because
over 80?
We know well, it's just about 80. I bet you if it goes up one more tick, it's going to be over 80.
It doesn't work that way.
Fundamentally, we know there are two more fundamental drivers coming in the form of drill results from the lab. We know from anecdotal evidence from the camp that core is coming up very good looking.
Corn?
Core.
Not corn.
Not corn, Ed.
It's right on the cornfield.
Drill core.
Okay.
Some, drill core. The stuff they pull out of the ground when they drill a hole.
So what they're looking for is significant core flakes.
Core flakes? This is a one-man comedy show over here?
No.
I'm trying to have a serious stock conversation, and you're using it as a basis for your material? Boy, oh boy, Milewski, you got noise.
So I also found out that it's not boronite that this copper is found in.
Bornite, yeah.
Bornite.
Well, clearly I didn't have that problem, Ed. Did you think it was boron?
Is there an echo in here?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here we are. Technically, it's looking like a champion.
Yeah.
We're going to have a little bit of resistance here, but there are so few shares in the company back here. There was only, 5 or 10 million shares, so it was easily, but now, what's the volume today? Can you see?
Yeah, it is 2.9 million shares. So
no, that's wrong because I have all the exchanges on mine. So I'm just saying.
Oh, right. Sorry, that is just the TSX. I'm going to switch to a look of the STX And I can tell you here, oh, 1 second, GLDN, slow. Okay, so the volume is 3.48.
Nice.
3.48 million. Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm not even logged in, so that means that's 20 minutes ago. Let's
You
check it
know
again.
what? I'm not supposed to use my phone on the set, am I? But
Well,
you know what?
it's kind of rude to be making a phone
What
call when
about
you're part of a larger
what-
conversation.
No phone calls, but just looking for stock information to pass on to our.
3.9 million.
There you go.
3.9 million.
That's pretty good.
Oh, that's right. We were supposed to get you a state-of-the-art laptop so you can see what I'm seeing and you can do all the
IBM
things I'm doing.
ThinkBab.
I think you want an IBM speech pad ahead.
You gotta. That was ThinkBab.
Ed, can I just inquire, did you have a couple of pints at lunch today? All right. We have a hell of a show for you today. You know, we've got Bruce Linton, we have Cam Battley, we have James
West.
James West and Ed Milewski. No, James Burns. James Burns, the CEO of Alcanna. Turns out that Aurora's already got a head start on all of these retail footprints in 3 provinces. We're going to hear about that a little later. We have, what else do we have? It's an incredible show. It's going to be an incredible show. We're going to blow your minds. You're going to see things you've never seen before. You're going to see Ed tumble out of the chair, out of the sky, get shot out of a
Dancing.
cannon. Dancing.
Can we look at the most actives on the venture today, just
All right.
out of curiosity?
Boy.
We're just throwing it out there. We
right.
move in a very circuitous fashion.
That's right. You never know where we're going to end up.
No,
You never know what's next.
I'd like to
Market
see
movers. Here we go.
market
TSXV.
movers. Yeah.
Whoa.
Is
District
Golden on the
Copper.
top 5?
Golden's number 2 after District Copper Corp. But District Copper
Look
Corp.
at this. Is that live?
This is live.
Say it ain't so.
It's so.
District Copper Corp might be around Golden Ridge. I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either. Abin Resources. I just subscribed for 100,000 shares of, or $100,000 rather worth of Abin Resources in the private placement. That is going to be.
Do you have a printing press?
Yeah, no, I've got. I've just, I've got.
Hey.
I'm basically a central bank now. No, there's been a market on, and I've been aggressively pursuing discovery plays and cannabis stocks, and it seems to be working. So I wasn't so rich at the beginning of the year. Now I feel like I'm.
You're richer than you think?
I'm richer than I think.
Do you bank at Bank of Nova Scotia?
No, I don't.
Sorry, Scotiabank.
No. I drank a bank at BM, just in case one's not cooperating. So yeah, let's see. Cobalt Power Group.
Look at this, 37 Golden Ridge. Wow.
Yeah, Golden Ridge. Look at that Golden Ridge go. What
Look
else?
at that Golden Ridge go.
Look at that Golden
Ridge, Golden Ridge.
Go.
What about Golden Years? Should we do a rendition of Bowie's Golden Years?
Golden Years.
Bop, bop, bop. No, I'll do the a cappella, and
Okay.
you do the vocals.
Mishapon Day, I believe it all. I believe
believe.
all the way. All right, enough of that
Anyway.
tomfoolery.
Oh, that was pretty good. You know, did anybody ever tell you that you're talented
Well,
or flawed?
I've heard that in
flawed.
in between the sheets.
Okay.
I have a certain flair for
Jesus, let the sheets,
imaginative.
Let the sheets. One of my favorite lines of all time was Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire when his former spouse, who didn't know that he was, in fact,
She.
right? So
Right.
she was suggesting that to Mrs. Doubtfire that maybe it was time for her to date.
Huh.
And of course, he's jealous as hell that she's thinking about that because he loves her tremendously.
Right.
He says, "Oh no, let the sheets cool. It's too early."
Enough of those silly stories, Ed. We're going to cut to
Okay.
Cam Battley and
Okay.
the conversation we
Good.
had about Aurora.
Good. I'm listening for this.
Cam Battley, what
James
are you doing
West.
here?
Hi.
It's so funny that you're here right now.
Tell me why is it so funny?
I just bought $10,000 worth of your stock. You know why I just upped my position by another $10,000?
Please, tell me.
Because you reminded me that I'm actually going to get a share and a warrant of Australis if I'm a shareholder of record on the date of record that is not yet announced, but you're comfortable in telling me that
Subject to the ratio that we have
Subject to the
yet to
ratio.
determine and will announce. But yes,
anyways, there's a gift there.
there is a gift. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really truly is a gift. It's It's a gift to our shareholders,
Yeah.
and we're giving them something of significant value that we hope to turn into an awful lot more value in a very short period of time.
Right. There's been some incredible developments in the cannabis space in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
So let's tackle that first, and then we're going to tackle it in the context of what that means for Aurora.
Yeah.
Constellation Brands just agreed to invest $4 billion US
With a B.
5 billion Canadian
Yep.
into Canopy Growth Corp.
Yes.
Effectively taking control of the company, but without replacing management.
Right,
So,
takes them to 38%, I think, but with warrants they have the option to acquire majority control of Canopy, if I'm correct about
Sure.
that. And congratulations to Bruce and Canopy for that. That's
Right.
a very exciting development.
you bet. It gives them a $25 billion valuation because the purchase price was essentially a 37% premium to the closing price of the last 20 days, which was remarkable, not just for Canopy, not just for Constellation, but for the entire industry. All
For the sector.
boats were lifted by this tidal event.
Well, it's not just about the boats being lifted. I mean, obviously that's nice because the sector's been kind of soft through the summer, so it's nice that everybody's gotten green based on this big pull from Constellation. But more importantly, it's validation, and we keep using that word. But the validation is that this is indeed going to be a big, grown-up, powerful, and wealthy industry on a global basis. And let's emphasize, Constellation is not putting billions with a B into a cannabis company based on the Canadian market.
Right.
And this is what you and I have been talking about for some time, that everybody's excited about consumer legalization, as we should be. It's a big deal in Canada, but it's just the start. And the real story is much, much bigger. But it's also validation that who are going to be the global leaders. And this is something else that you and I have been talking about for some time. The leading Canadian companies are going to be the global leaders.
Sure.
We have built up an expertise, a capacity, plus the capitalization to be able to take this worldwide. And so this is just the first of what I suspect will be a number of very positive developments. There are going to be a lot of catalysts coming our way shortly.
Yeah. So the big question that everybody out there who's watching this wants me to ask you
Oh, am I going
is,
to be able to answer it?
well, this is the thing. There's no doubt there's an answer. Is it the answer that everybody wants? We shall see. But where is Aurora's giant $5 billion transaction on the timeline in the future, and with what kind of an entity? Like, so everybody's thinking that Aurora is the next logical partner for a major brand in adult consumables, whether it's in the pharma side, whether it's in the alcohol side, the tobacco side. There are so many different areas where people are, sharpening their pencils and figuring out how do we get exposure to this nascent industry that is transforming economies, not just individuals. So what would you say to that?
First of all, it's a very logical question. We have the second largest market cap. We probably have the largest international footprint, certainly in Europe. So it's a very logical question to ask. I'm going to choose my words carefully, as I've done in the past when asked questions like this, because first of all, they're hypothetical. Second of all, they're forward-looking. And third, I don't think you should be talking about business development until it's fully baked. The other way can get people into serious troubles and companies into serious troubles. And hurt
Elon
shareholders.
Musk, as an example.
Without further comment and not wanting to throw shade on anybody. And
Right.
actually, that's an individual for whom I have a great deal of admiration in some ways. But it is safe to say, repeating what I've said before, that we have talked to absolutely everybody who's interested in this space. So some of it is technologies and companies that we might be interested in. Others would be prospective or potential partners who are approaching us based on our presence, our footprint, our technology, and our expertise. And we spend a very great deal of our time every week having those conversations. That's about what I can say now safely without ending up incarcerated, which is
Right.
something I do like avoiding.
Okay, so let's continue the hypothetical discussion
Oh,
before
sure,
we go
great.
into
I
the
love those.
actual. But so is the adult beverage space a place that Aurora has ambitions?
Huge. Absolutely. It's an extremely attractive market segment.
Right.
And you need a few things. You have to have the emulsification technology to create a stable in solution cannabis product. You want that technology, that formulation technology, to deliver rapid onset of action so that you don't have the typical delayed onset of action associated with the ingestion of cannabis products.
Right.
And you also want that formulated to have a shorter duration of action so that you're not making a 6 to 10 hour commitment to being intoxicated, which is a hell of a commitment.
Right.
So you have to have that in place. You've got to have the capacity to produce your raw material at low cost. And this is one of the elements that not everybody in this space is going to be able to deliver, is to produce a large amount of cannabis economically. And we've even seen some struggles by some of the larger producers to be able to produce cannabis economically. And no matter what you plan to do with the value-added products, you still have to be able to access one way or another, whether you produce it yourself or find other people to produce it for you. You've got to be able to access that raw material economically.
Sure.
And that's one of the areas where I think Aurora has distinguished itself and continues to, and we'll be doing even more of that with the Sky Class facilities.
Right. I wanted to reflect on a moment because our next guest in this segment is going to be James Burns, the CEO of Alcanna.
Yes.
And
Very strong executive.
I was shocked to learn that you're actually one of the largest shareholders of the company at
shocked?
25. Well, I was, because you mentioned that you made an investment. But then through the interview with James, we're going to hear how he's actually already got 245 stores in prime locations across Western Canada. He's obviously looking at the opportunity on Ontario. He's the largest private vendor of alcohol in Canada.
In Canada.
Right now.
And we own a quarter of them.
Exactly.
And that is an excellent partnership.
But then he told me he's changing the name of his stores, in some cases, to Aurora stores.
Yes, that's our exclusive arrangement with them, is that we're together as partners. We're going to be opening up Aurora branded and Alcanna operated private cannabis retail stores wherever provincial regulations allow it. And the nice thing about working with Alcanna is they're so good at this, and they have the experience that we don't have. That's what makes it complementary, that partnership. So they have all of the knowledge, all of the relationships, for example, with the major landlords.
Right.
And they were moving actually together with us immediately after the Ontario election, when it was clear that there was a change in government coming, and they've already scoped out locations, a very large number of locations across Ontario. They've already had discussions with respect to leases. I can't be more specific than that, but I think we'll have something to say fairly soon. And also they've got the expertise and the capitalization to move very, very rapidly. So together, once the framework is clear in Ontario, we're going to be able to move in, assuming that the framework allows for it, we're going to be able to move in and establish very, very good stores in very, very good locations, and do so in a way that gives the government confidence. And that's critically important too, that the provincial government and also the municipal governments have confidence that we're going to do this right in a responsible way. And nobody in Canada has more experience, and nobody's better at managing the sales of a controlled substance than Alcanna, who've been doing it for 25 years. So if you want confidence, if you want a true retail partner, if you want to know that it's going to be able to be done right, it's Alcanna plus Aurora.
Interesting. So that led me to more research on what the company's doing, because we also had Jason Zandberg here yesterday, who enlightened me.
The analyst.
Yes, the analyst from PI Financial, who was very staunchly defending and very compelling in his thesis of why he sees Aurora at $13 a share in no specific timeline per se, but he looks at the company as very much a buying opportunity. He convinced me. I just bought 10,000 shares. So, and I did so because
thank you for being an Aurora shareholder.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. Believe me, it's not the first time, and it won't be the last. The scope of and the range of things that are actually already in place and under development and have already established their own momentum in, across the universe, EU GMP facilities in Denmark, Germany, Australia, South America, Latin America, and then Cannabis RX Malta. I mean, these are all, the problem I find with Aurora is that it's so hard to see the totality of it, because there's such an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the assets that no matter who you are in the investment space, there's almost nobody who actually grasps it all and can articulate it in less than, a day.
So I love to use that term, because that's how I often characterize it myself at Aurora. It's an embarrassment of riches. And one of the exciting things, but as you say, one of the challenges is to communicate just how much we have going on, from the deep science of Anandia to the retail partnership with Alcanna and our distribution arrangements in Europe and with Shoppers Drug Mart and with provinces, to so many other things, to our strategic investments in 10 plus companies and the 10 acquisitions that we've completed in the last 2 years. It's a very big, very rich story, but that's exactly where we want to be at this point. We set out very purposefully to establish this fully integrated company. And there are multiple advantages to that. First of all, we're vertically integrated, and that's extremely useful because we get to capture value through the chain. We're also horizontally integrated into technologies that will be useful to us over time and to our additional partners. But then the other thing, of course, is that we've been able to acquire, and this will circle back to our US strategy through Australis as well. We've been able to acquire assets at relatively low valuations. So we buy something today, it's worth more tomorrow, and then next week and next year. And we don't have to make decisions immediately as to which of these assets will be core. Some of these things in the future will be spun off, will be sold off at higher valuations. But we don't need to make those decisions right now, and that's a very comfortable place to be. I like the optionality of it.
Optionality, that's interesting. I happened to catch Bruce Linton's conversation this morning, and he focuses on the optionality that they're attempting to build. To see that you've actually accomplished that in large degree with this range of assets is, it makes me comfortable as a shareholder. What can I say? And by way of disclosure, if you're just tuning in, I am a shareholder of Aurora, so I am conflicted. Now, let's
Don't be conflicted, be happy.
Well, I mean, I'm not conflicted. The perception is one of conflict. But anyways, let's quickly run through this list, Cam. I know you've got another meeting to go to. Denmark, Aurora Nordic. Tell me about what's happening there.
Plants, Denmark.
Plants?
Yes.
Mothers, fathers?
Yes.
No fathers. Fathers not welcome.
No, it's ladies only.
Ladies only.
Yes, so that we don't have any seeds, just to be clear. That's why we only use female plants.
Right.
But yes, we've shipped our first plants over to Denmark, where we have 2 facilities that we're developing. The first one, of course, is a retrofitted greenhouse so that we can hit the ground running. That's only 100,000 square feet. Only 100,000 square feet. And then beyond that, of course, we're building Aurora Nordic, which is one of our Sky class facilities. It's a 1 million square foot closed system with the glass roof, so slightly larger than Aurora Sky at Edmonton International Airport, and a little bit smaller than Aurora Sun in Medicine Hat. So that is a location, a country, a partnership that we're very, very excited about because it allows us to supply not just Denmark, but Scandinavia, and also any excess can go to the EU, of which Denmark, of course, is a member, and that's a great place to do business. Denmark is an incredibly good place to do business.
Awesome. Germany.
Germany, yeah. So Germany, obviously, we love. We're selling a ton of product there right now through our wholly owned subsidiary, previously known as Pedanios, and now known as Aurora Deutschland.
Aurora Deutschland.
Which is German for Germany.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So are you...
And through them, also in Italy and Malta, and soon a whole host of other EU countries.
Are you, in fact, the largest distributor of medical cannabis in Germany?
We believe we are, yeah. Clearly, Pedanios has been operating for some time, and they also distribute product not just from us, but also from Bedrocan BV in the Netherlands. And soon we'll be adding additional producers as well, we anticipate.
Excellent.
And there's more than that because we have additional channels into Europe as well.
Right. So last I heard, Germany had about 20,000 registered patients using medical cannabis. They've got a population of almost 80 million.
82, 83 million, yeah.
82, 83
yeah, so about 2.5 times the population of Canada. And that system is growing fast. It will grow faster than Canada's has. Remember, Canada already has well over 300,000 patients in the medical cannabis system.
Right.
It will grow faster in Germany, mark my words, because most patients are getting insurance reimbursement. And can you imagine how rapidly the Canadian system would have expanded if it had been reimbursed?
What is the catalyst that's going to see wider and rapid adoption in Germany?
Availability of product.
Is that really
It really is. It really is.
Oh, okay.
Can I tell you how often I hear from our people managing Aurora Deutschland, who are the partners behind Pedanios, please ship us more product, just more product, more product, more product. And for now, it's just dried cannabis.
Okay.
And very shortly, we're going to have approval to sell our cannabis oils, so our value-added products, and then after that, our capsules. So we're working on all of that and increasing dramatically our sales in Germany. And that becomes easier now that we have a couple of things in place. One, we've received our license to sell out of our Aurora V facility, which in capacity is only a little bit smaller than our first facility, Aurora Mountain. And also, we're going to be, we hope, touch wood, very, very shortly announcing that we have our sales license from Health Canada for Aurora Sky, where we've already had harvest, and now we have product that is stockpiling, and it will be ready to go. So we're going to be able to pivot increasingly to Europe, where we get a premium price on our dried cannabis, and we will get a premium price on our value-added products as well. This is a very, very exciting time. This fall is going to be wicked busy.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, and finally, let's talk about Australia and South Africa down there in that lower corner of the world.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
you got 22% of the largest cannabis grower in Australia?
Yeah.
And that's going to translate into what kind of market share of that entire market? What's the size of the market in Australia?
So it's fairly small right now. They really need to kick that market into high gear, but there's pressure building to move in that direction. But it's a reasonably well capitalized market. If you compare it to the rest of the world, it's really only the second market after Canada where they have publicly listed companies. So you've got some fairly large ones like our partners, Can Group, of which we own 22.9%, and AusCan, which of course is Canopy's partner down there, and then a few others. And we also have another channel into Australia, and that comes via our acquisition of MedRelief. And this is MedRelief Australia, which is a private company that has multiple licenses, and that is also a very promising asset down there.
Sure. Okay.
But we also skipped one. One of the things that I think is really important, and that is that MedRelief, our MedRelief facility in Markham, Ontario, actually received its EU GMP certification, its Good Manufacturing Practices certification from the European Union. So that allows us, once again, through a new channel, to ship additional product into Europe, and Europe's going to be a fantastic market.
Sure. Okay. So this would explain why your the quantity of short position against Aurora has halved in the last reporting period.
It's come way down,
and is now at just less than 7% of the float, which.
And that's significantly lower than some other producers.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of short covering coming up for short strategists, don't you think, in this space?
I do think so. I do think so. If last year is any guide, what we're likely to see this fall is perhaps something like what we saw last year, which is a kind of a run-up in the cannabis stocks in the whole sector in the fall. And of course, there are multiple catalysts driving us in that direction.
Right. All right, Cam, we're going to leave it there for now. We're going to come back to you in due course. Thank you once again for your participation.
Always a pleasure, James.
So that's what Cam says. Like, I mean, come on. Why is the stock still sucking hind tit?
Well, the real answer is that there are more sellers than buyers. Like, the mood's changed, and when the mood has changed, the most important thing you can do is recognize what the mood is and try not to step in front of.
That's not the answer I was looking for.
Okay.
I want an answer that goes something like, James, buying $70,000 worth of Aurora stock today was not a bad idea, despite the fact that you've already lost money. You will do very well by this trade, because once the world understands the full extent of what Aurora's got,
Right.
it will begin to perform.
Sure. But
Now you notice
you're
that
talking fundamentally, and I'm talking technically.
Technically. Okay, should we pull up the technical chart on ACB for a quick look? What do you think about that?
Sure.
All right, let's go.
I already probably know
Charts
what
and
I'm going to
minutes.
say.
Oh, no active session. What the hell? ACB.
And if you notice,
Wait, we're going to pull up a few. Let's see. Let's go 50-day.
chart type.
200. Let's go relative strength.
Is there any way we can keep all this stuff in there, like, permanently? Like, so we don't
Watch this. Candlestick. And then I'm going to go set as default. I'll bet you that does it. What else do we want on our default?
You want
Comparison
Bollinger
index?
Bands. I want Bollinger Bands, please.
Bollinger Bands make the whole thing such a
Okay, don't
dog's
put them there.
breakfast.
I
Oh,
know.
put them there. Let's see what it looks like.
Okay,
Okay.
20. Okay.
Look at that.
Wow. It's like the movie The Fog.
So, Ed, since you've insisted on Bollinger Bands, I think we need another explanation
All
of
right.
what Bollinger
Okay,
Bands is,
so-
because
so-
I didn't get any more clear on that since the last time you
Okay.
made that.
So basically, statistically, this is all about moving averages. This is all about what's likely to happen. So as I understand it, and if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it, but as I understand it, they have an upper band.
Whoa, sorry, I've got weed up here.
Well, that's fine. That's a
Okay,
good
we'll
one.
start with weed.
Okay, so we got an upper band, which
Yeah.
is that yellow line.
Yeah.
And you've got a lower band, which is that yellow line.
And
okay?
what are those bands
Okay,
representative of?
so there's some formula that has tracked all stock movement and basically said,
Statistically, this is the average
this
of what will happen.
is a range. Most of the time, the stock is going to trade between those two lines. And if you look, it has. It's very rarely does it get out. Here it got out a bit, but this is a powerful ascent. But eventually,
But what good does that do you as a trader? What's the signal?
Okay, so if you see this,
Yeah.
then you know it's probably going back inside.
Oh, I see. So
So you go along here, you get the short here, you get short here.
Yeah.
And again,
Okay, so it's telling me to sell Canopy right now.
That's right.
And
That's what it's saying, but it doesn't always work. But it's another tool.
Okay, so now you look at the relative
Another
strength
tool.
index, 200-day versus 50-day. They're both in a steep trajectory north. So now is that conflicting with what the Bollinger Band's saying?
The blue trend. Look, at every technical indicator has different messages. When you figure out the right combination of all these technical indicators, then you can make, you figure out a program that works for you. Like you look at this, you look at this, and look at this, and you say, you know what? 8 times out of 10, this is going to happen. So look, this thing looked like it was going. It went from the lower band to the upper band.
Yeah.
It collapsed back there, but not quite as low. And look, so you could say, well, you know what? Like there's a million things you could do.
Yeah. But look at this thing trade. It's like 8 million shares traded so far today.
I know.
And it's down $1.45. Yet, what is the implied value of the acquisition of the $5 billion investment by Constellation? Oh, what? Alex, what is the implied valuation of the purchase of $5 billion by?
The problem with like, if you make a statement like that, you're saying that everybody knows what you know. It doesn't work that way. It's like there's all this information out there, and the bottom line is here we are. Now, all I say is that this may have to move sideways a bit to work off its overbought.
Okay.
RSI's not bad though, so that's okay.
60.
This may only move sideways for a day or two.
Okay, so let's look at now ACB
Okay.
in this context.
Can I sit down?
Please.
Oh, it feels good.
Okay, so ACB is dipped outside of the Bollinger Band, and you're right.
And you called it. You said these things should be bought. And I'm sort of hesitating, and yet look what happened.
And the relative strength index is just above 20 at 26.7.
It has room to grow. It really does.
Okay,
But
the 50-day moving average has crossed below the 200-day moving average. What does that tell you? Donnie Greco has
that's the death cross.
That's the death cross.
I believe so.
So that's the
Donnie, is that the death cross you're watching? I know you're.
Donnie, if you're watching, what does it mean when the 50-day moving average crosses below the 200-day moving average to a pro like you? Let's see. Donnie is a pro. He's on Facebook. I'm thinking. Whoa! They ate it. Okay, because they know I'm switching over to see what Donnie has to say here. Donnie, where'd you go? Donnie's not on Facebook anymore. Donnie's not on Facebook anymore.
I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but I got to get some water.
Your timing's perfect because it's time to talk to Bruce Linton. Bruce Linton is here, everybody, to talk about his $5 billion deal with Constellation that is just apparently the first of future financings in the same range. Go figure. a month. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment, probably doesn't need much introduction. Oh, we'll give him an introduction. Mr. $5 billion man himself, Bruce Linton, CEO and founder of Canopy Growth Corporation.
Wow, man! I thought maybe you got the $5 billion. You got the new studio.
I feel like I did get the $5 billion.
I come in, the signage is upgraded.
It's a proximity thing.
It's good. I like it.
It is.
Fancy microphones.
Yeah, we're making movies now.
It's wow, wow. When you presented your business plan, which was, I'm going to get a lot of content and I'm going to spend a lot of money doing it, and then I don't know what happens next. Right. You seem to have made an evolution off of that.
Right. Well, actually, you did read to the end of the business plan.
Do you remember that in my lobby?
Yeah.
So this is a good business plan, except it's missing the business part.
Right.
It's more like a content part.
I actually did write this business plan back in 2012, and we are executing on that business plan with some minor variations, largely thanks to the cannabis revolution.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't go so far as to say I couldn't have done it without you, because I would have died trying until some market came along. But enough about me.
Well, I'm obviously supporting you because you are the last stop on the media mayhem before I go back to regularly scheduled programming.
Oh,
and
I'm honored.
It's only about 90 degrees outside. Humidity is somewhere north of 90%. I'm wearing a suit, and I walked part of the way to get here. So, James,
yes,
talk to me.
All right, Bruce. The Constellation deal. Now they've given you a valuation of, what is it? It was a 38%. Let's back up here.
So it was about a more than 50%.
51.2% premium to the average closing price on August 14th.
Yeah.
They are 38% owners with the rights to buy up to 51%?
Up to 50. So the way it's structured is they were at 16.4% because if they exercise their 2 warrants, which they don't currently have access to both pieces, but if they did exercise, that would bring them to 16.4%.
Okay.
So they were buying a little bit less than 25% of the company for a little bit more than $5 billion. Mm-hmm. And then they have a next tranche, which can move them from 38 and change to almost 50%.
Okay.
And that's at a premium above this premium.
Oh.
And then if they want to go to 55%, and throughout there they have the preemptive rights, meaning if we go and buy some, extractor in outer Mongolia and use shares, they can actually top up to their pro rata position. And we have mechanisms if I want to do secondary or alternate financings of how they get to play.
Wow.
And then the final tranche is what I think I invented it. It's called a rainbow, which is they have the right to purchase up to 5% from the Treasury on a 5-day VWAP after they've exercised the 2 parts before. And so what I do is I get their fuel now, and we spend, and we grow, and we dominate. And then they take another bite, and I get about another $5 billion. We spend, and we grow, and we dominate.
Whoa.
And then you have this rainbow, which is priced at whatever the stock would be worth on a 5-day VWAP. And the reason I call it a rainbow is, and I actually call it a rainbow for several days. It caused some problems for the people doing, how do you analyze something that doesn't have a future price? But the point was that I and others, as independent shareholders, we want to know you got to go all the way to there at whatever price is 5 days, and there's no cap on what that would be.
Yeah.
And so rainbows typically are associated with no specific location and a pot of gold. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a good rainbow.
Well, Suzanne, put me on the bid for 10,000 more shares, please. So what are you going to do with $5 billion?
Well, it's actually, it's sort of like a reverse order thing, right? Where they wanted to get to was this investment, the premium they paid was a change of control. Mm-hmm. Then you, by default, get $5 billion. So then what you say is, with $5 billion, how much would I allocate to international evolution and execution, acquisition of properties and building things out? Mm-hmm. You'd probably find that about 40% is likely to be the right number. And you say, well, how could you spend that much? Well, if you look at Canopy today, for Canada, we have about $1.4 billion of tangible assets on our book. So we have 11 other countries we want to be in. $2 billion doesn't seem like it would be enough. Mm-hmm. Then you got this other chunk, which would be thinking about, how do I vertically stack and finish everything I want, from how do I get down to extraction platforms that go right to the API, so the single cannabinoids? How do we get those then to be restructured into formulations and delivery mechanisms so we can do clinical trials, get outcomes, get DINs, run that race? Because those will have a lot of strength in other markets once you have the security here, because you have the IP.
Right.
And then you might want to keep a good chunk of that to also look at Okay, if we can make beverages in Canada, suppose we can. Suppose we've invented them, suppose we perfect them, we brand the hell out of them. Do you need a bottling and canning line to do that? Yes, you do. So we would build those things with Constellation.
You wouldn't just buy them.
No, because I want it in proximity to our facility.
You like Smith Smalls.
Yeah, and I want to have, I don't want to have somebody say, well, you asked to get 3 square bottle styles, and the market only likes round bottles, and it'll be 6 months till we change to the round bottle system. I'm good with like 6 minutes, 6 hours.
Right.
So if you don't own it, you don't control it. If you don't control it, you can't agilely turn to where you want to be.
Sure.
And so that's kind of, you start working your way through, and all of a sudden you're going, that's quite a lot of money. And, there is an opportunity where we could see really significant growth in our company because, as you know, we've been pretty good at getting provinces to sign up. And I don't care if you're selling it online, in a store by the government or somebody else. Right now we're looking at about a minimum 67,000 kilograms that have been signed up, plus whatever Ontario wants, plus the fact that we have the biggest market share medical. I think that means there's a baseline revenue that's pretty substantial, which should mean that we're not actually eating heavily into the cash to run our business at all. So not a bad scenario.
You're always going to have a big balance sheet of cash.
We're very good at spending money, right?
Right.
Like we have spent the most money of anybody in the sector.
I guess you have.
And we
You've
built
raised
the most. And we built the most.
And you've built the most.
And now we have the most. So now you got it here. Now you got 11 other places in total.
Sure.
There's
more coming every day.
Sure.
Wow.
So I think like what we're really talking about, starting on Tuesday, I believe there's a 2-year race. And the 2-year race is to establish yourself with all of the elements I've just described to such a meaningful level that it'll be very important people continue to pursue the market so they can identify who comes second. But if you do the race starting now, I think we have a very good chance of making it clear who's number one in all these geographies, all the IP claims, all the packaging, everything you want. And if this causes everybody in pharma and packaged liquor to say, oh, good God, I better do something fast, I think that actually increases our league. You say, well, how could that be? Well, let's see, you get a gorilla to dance with a mouse, and they're not even dancing the same music. How does that turn out? It's going to be a disaster. So the reason we work well with them is we incrementally built trust, competency. We became comfortable in how we interacted. We established where the entrepreneurial linkages were in terms of how we made decisions, and now we can accelerate.
How did you meet Constellation in the first place?
Well, yeah, I think like a lot of connections these days, it starts with online stalking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were stalking them, or they were stalking you?
We were stalking them.
You really?
Yeah. And we were because in about November of 2016, Rob Sands, who's the CEO, had made a comment which may or may not have been properly captured, but that he thought he should be in the cannabis space, which was an unusual position for anybody not in the cannabis space, especially if they were in the alcohol beverage space. And so we were extraordinarily curious, why did he make that comment? And was he open in looking at this? So we began using LinkedIn as a way to reach into his organization, and a little shout out there for LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And it established connection, discussions. It went on for 11 months.
Right.
And so on the occasion of October 17, when we made that announcement, it shocked the hell out of the world. Nobody knew we were doing it. And guess what? On Tuesday, same thing. Which means in a sector where I can tell if you've had lunch probably based on rumors. There were no rumors on those 2 occasions of somewhere approaching $5.5 billion of investment.
Sure.
So I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty amazing. Bruce, I've had a few people ask me, and I thought, I'm pretty sure Bruce will have no problem with this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. But they're like, so I always say that Bruce came from humble beginnings and, was not born with a silver spoon in his mouth. In fact, and we tell the story that, Bruce used to pitch people on Bay Street, and people find that like, wow, Bruce was one of us formerly.
What do you mean?
Give me the best example of your humble origins in the capital markets.
Maybe you should make sure I qualify this. I meet many people who are greedy. Okay. And greedy people have a problem in that they believe their IQ increases as they become more wealthy. Which validates being greedy because now they're so smart, they're smarter than everybody else, and they should have more. Right?
Bad thinking.
I think greed and work ethic don't coexist. And so maybe one of the things I'm habitualized to use an interesting word for our sector, is you just work, right? Like today I did a presentation at a marijuana conference, and the presentation and discussion was 1 hour. I spent 1 hour and 40 minutes answering people's questions afterwards.
Yes, I saw
But
that.
I think you should.
Right.
And yesterday I had a fairly long day in New York, and when I got to Toronto, I had committed 2 months ago to attend a broker's house for a client's reception because that broker 3 and 4 years ago actually supported us. And so I made sure I curtailed my interviews on time to get a flight so I could go to his house and thank his clients for supporting us 4 years ago.
Bruce Linton
And so-
is a man of the people.
Well, no, but I think it's very important, right? If you say, well, I don't need that person anymore,
Right.
that doesn't matter to me. It's no longer a relevant. I think that's where you start falling apart. And so I don't think it's a good habit to get into those patterns where you disregard the people who helped you get where you are.
Right.
And so I've enjoyed the announcement. I enjoyed the negotiations way more than the announcement.
Sure.
Like, it takes a lot of time to tire out some Goldman Sachs people. Like, we had last weekend, apparently it was sunny out, but we started at 8 in the morning on Saturday, got done around 11:30 at night. And we thought we'd just get together for a bit more on Sunday, and that went from about 9 in the morning until 10 at night. And that was after we've been working on it most days of the week.
Wow.
And I like that. I probably look tired. My mom texted me yesterday to say, you look tired on TV. And I said, that's because I am tired on TV.
Actually, well, I've sat across from you a million times, and you do come across as a little bit worn right
Well,
now.
I haven't had a haircut in a while. I haven't had a proper sleep. I actually, so we finished the deal while I was in New York. I flew down to New York because I had to be on the right side of the border in case this got done, but it wasn't done. So then we were on the phone, we were doing stuff and working on stuff and getting fairness opinions, all that stuff, and finally the deal was done around 12:30, and then it's a good time to actually turn your attention to the press release, which you've worked through and you're fine with, but then you have to think about the call in the morning and the quarter. So, you go to sleep for your hour, and then you wake up and you go, okay, that was quite refreshing. And then you do yesterday and last night. So I do apologize to your viewers if I look a little tired. Because
gotta
you know
do
what? I'm also disheveled. Like, the hair thing, I don't have that much hair.
You're in the cannabis
But
business.
I do not have that much hair, but there's no excuse for it being unkept.
You got to do something for your $5 billion.
Well, I'm still wearing my high.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. No, you gotta keep those on.
Sure. Okay, so let's cut straight to October 17th. $5 billion, put that aside. That gives you such a momentum that you're now, the next biggest companies is standing in the shadow looking up and saying, how do we get back there?
But they shouldn't do that.
They can't help it. It's human nature.
No. But you have to figure out, right, like, it's the best thing for the sector, fully and completely, is that we dominate and win. There will still be tons for everybody to do. But if you at least have a clear leader that has made good decisions, represents the sector well, doesn't get in trouble by doing funny little side corporations to go into the US, or doesn't get in trouble because, the things that people do,
Right.
It is very good for the sector. Because we're not competing with each other. What we're trying to do is transform society. And the more somebody grabs at my ankles, all they do is piss me off and try to slow me down, but it doesn't actually achieve the mission, which creates the business, which is where all the value is.
Right.
So October, to interject there, you were talking about October. October is going to be madness. And I don't care, somebody said to me today, they said, you know what it's going to be like in October in Ontario? I said, what? They said, world's best concert coming for one night only, and you're trying to buy tickets online. You're going to be going like this. There's going to be people, it's going to crash the system because there's going to be so many people who want to do it. And a lot of people didn't think through, like, that's going to be interesting, and it's a very discreet way, right? Like, everybody knows how to do that right now for medical. And by the time the stores are ready is when the really splashy products hit.
Right.
Which means that when the first time you go in the store, all the good stuff's there, whether it's beverages, ingestibles, all the stuff that's coming next with vapes. So I would sooner have them come to stores in Ontario that we own, train, stock up, and the first experience is quite a comprehensive offering. And so if you want to buy the stock today and sell it tomorrow, probably crappy. If you actually want to make money over some duration, it's a pretty good thing.
Well, I consider Canopy, personally, I consider it a legacy stock. Not one you're ever going to sell. It's one you're going to pass on to your progeny.
It's kind of funny you're talking about passing something around and we're talking about a cannabis stock.
The one thing I've noticed about cannabis conversations is the analogies actually exceed the real essence of the meaning. So
yeah, for sure.
It's fantastic. So on October 17th, how many retail locations will you have in Canada?
They're still coming out of Alberta, but we have, I may misrepresent it, so please give the future-looking statement. I think we're at 6, could be 8 in Newfoundland, including one at the point of production, which The point of production won't be ready on the 17th because we're building the building now that's going to be our grow down there.
Right.
We have 6 or 8 in Alberta, same in Manitoba, and we've got the chunk through Alberta. So we get Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Newfoundland, Alberta coming up. Then we're hoping and expecting that the approach taken by those 3 provinces will be what Ontario takes. And I suspect Ontario would find that having 250 might be the minimum, and I bet they don't need 550 right away. But that's almost 10 times more than the province is going to have.
Right.
And so, when you say, well, how do you use money? Well, building out a decent store so that it's got all the security controls and has all the, you want to make it look nice. You're not going to spend less than, depending on the province, between $250 and $300 a square foot to build those.
Right.
And so then the question isn't how many stores, how many square feet are you filling out? And suppose each store is anywhere between 1,500 and 3,000 square feet. You can start to say, shit, people in a lot of stores, they got to spend a lot of money, but you will make quite good money on them too.
Right. So have you got a actual sort of enterprise within your enterprise that's out there identifying locations, picking stores, dealing with real landlords?
Yeah. We've kind of had that thing going on for a while because all the construction and the leasing, and we have professional agents. So as an example, what that yields is we ended up with these stores in Newfoundland, but our flagship store is on Water Street. And it's not just on Water Street, it's right across the road from this big gray stone building that used to be the courthouse for Newfoundland. So I think it's pretty cool. On the day Prohibition ends, at the earliest hour it can end in Canada because of the time difference, the first place I want to be spotted buying cannabis is directly across from the courthouse. And
Just for irony's sake.
Right, but so I think it's very important that you don't just find locations, you find locations that are the locations.
Right.
And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw one of your locations. I was on Davie Street in Vancouver a month ago, I guess, and I was like, oh, there's the now very recognizable High sitting right there over some windows. Yeah, so it was like, oh, well, that's great. It's becoming so recognizable. There's a place down here on Queen Street in Toronto coming together.
Yeah, so Queen and Peter, we got that place a year ago
That's a
to
hell of
be
a
our
location.
office above the first floor. And the first floor, we thought, we can teach people how to do stuff in here. If we can't sell stuff, we'll have swag. But who knows? It's a pretty good location.
Yeah, no
Queen
kidding.
and Peter. I think neighbors sell like really high-end sports shoes and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it is one of the spots.
And it's one of the most iconic neighborhoods in Toronto.
Yeah. So
Anyways,
we got that going.
Bruce, it's amazing to follow your progress. Your leadership in the industry is something that makes us all proud. I can say I speak for most everybody. And
I did get a couple of texts from folks in the sector, 2 of them, to say thanks for doing this and re-rating it. But that's 2 of them that recognize this was a pretty good thing for everybody.
Right.
The only people who really hated the transaction were the guys that were short a bunch of the people who didn't get the money.
Right.
A couple of them calling like, I love Europe, but Jesus, they didn't have to go up. And I think I was fairly clear, I am not buying any of them.
Yes.
So there's no sense in selling me and buying them and waiting for a premium on a takeout because that's not going to happen.
Right. An associate of mine bought it. I think he got it at $29 in the pre-market and sold it at $37 that day, just for an in-day trade, causing celebration. He's buying lunch next week.
I would say if he could just do that every day, his compounded rate of return would be quite acceptable.
Yeah, actually, he'd be able to write $5 billion checks. Anyways, let's leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your participation. We'll come back to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, James.
You know what? I want to buy more GLDN. I want to buy more Xro Ed. Tell me why I should, why I shouldn't. While you're doing that, I am going to pull up a chart. I'm not going to buy it today because I don't want to attract regulatory scrutiny by loading up at the end of the day on the market close. You know how that goes.
You know what? Yeah, you don't want to be accused of painting the tape.
I don't want any nonsense
Painting
like that.
the tape. You know, I thought for a minute that actually meant you got some paint, you painted the tape.
Yeah, painted the tape.
So look, just to say, I've been involved in a lot of these things where a hole comes out, and I'm going to speak about Golden first. And what has happened here, it looks like, and I thought for sure by next week we would see this thing retreating a bit back to, maybe, in a wild mid to mid to mid 20, no, let me just say this, 25, 28 cents, somewhere in there. And then today, mysteriously, it starts moving north again.
Okay, look at the Bollinger Bands on this thing. Though.
I know.
Look at it.
I know.
Look at it.
I know. Let's see. Here we go.
Did you see that guitar go by?
Yeah. There you go.
There's flying guitars in here now.
Flying guitars.
Hey, the man from Mars is eating bars, and now he only eats guitars.
Wow. Did you just make that up?
No,
okay,
that's just from a Blondie song.
What I want to tell you is...
But now look at the RSI. It's over 80.
Okay. If you go over here,
Yeah.
okay, you see what happens? You see how this thing sort of... Look, at the end of the day, there's always exceptions to the rules. But usually when something happens that's fundamentally...
True.
Significant
Okay.
that it changed. And you know, there's no
Yeah.
other place in the world. Like, if you hit a major discovery and people get the sense that it is, throw all these stupid things out. But the fact that it closed at a new high here, 38?
Significant.
Huh?
That's significant, is it?
It's absolutely. This has all the markings. Now, and again,
It's not closed yet. It's 356.
but I'm saying, if this thing starts, you know, like creeping up here, we'll see a great day tomorrow.
Okay, but look at the bars are all outside of the Bollinger Band.
I know, but they also did that here
So is
too,
it safe
right?
to
See,
say-
look at the first
yeah.
day. First day was outside,
Yeah.
and we had a little correction, and then
Yeah.
again, in other words, look, we've had a red day yesterday. That sort of tweaked it a bit. No, it's dangerous, but if they have a major discovery, what's it worth?
Well, that's just it. So the fundamentals are the only thing to worry about when you're dealing with major fundamental developments.
Right.
Ignore
Except,
the technicals.
In other words, this is behaving like this is getting bigger. It's in the minds of the watchers.
Yeah.
This has
There's a
potential for
I
size.
think there's a bunch of Bay Street old farts running around promoting each other on it. That's what
Well,
I
maybe
think.
you know, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Hey, could
Well,
you
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
Could you pass me a glass
You
of
want
Kool-Aid?
a glass of Kool-Aid?
Please.
Yeah, I bought it because I drank your Kool-Aid. You bought it because you drank my Kool-Aid.
Yeah. We're
And,
drinking the Kool-Aid,
we're
folks.
drinking
But
the
anyway,
Kool-Aid.
to make a long story short,
This thing's going to how high? No, you can't say that.
I can't.
Can't say
nobody
it.
knows that
Right.
that answer, but I
Right.
will say.
Looks like there's a discovery underway here.
And you know, we know there's holes in the hopper,
Yeah.
not in the hopper, but in the lab.
Yeah.
And if those holes sort of corroborate what we've already seen, then people are going to start saying, well, what if this is a monster? An ogre?
A monster.
You know what? This is what we do. This is what we get excited. It's what's the word? I'm thinking of a word. It's empowering. But you know, it's also
It's empowering when it works. It's less so when it
so
falls apart.
I didn't expect this at all today. So when I don't expect something, like I think there's going to be a setup, and and it does something I don't expect, then I start changing the model.
Yeah. Well, my expectation is I'm going to wait to see what the other holes look like. And if I see build
Right.
up ahead of the press release, then I know the hole's going to be good.
If these
Then you
next
see how
two
far it
holes,
goes.
I think he says, are going to come out at the same time in about 2 weeks. If they come out and corroborate what we've seen,
Yeah.
this changes the size dramatically.
Right. Because what's the entire discovery area that they've drilled here? It's like what, 1 kilometer by half a kilometer?
No.
Not that big.
I don't think so. I don't know, but that's a good question to ask, Mr. In fact, you could probably text him.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, if he.
We'll keep
Anyway,
that for
it's
future
exciting,
discussion.
and here we are. Look at. Now, and remember, back in here, there wasn't that much stock,
Yeah.
and so that you know, to compare, like the market cap is much bigger now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Much bigger.
Okay.
You know. Anyway,
Let's look
okay,
at
we can take
our
a look
old
at-
friends XRO.
XRO looks a little quiet, but it's had a run, and now it's looking like maybe, but not selling off dramatically.
No, wait.
And I've
where's
got,
XRO. XRO CNX. There we go. Oh, that's sold off a little bit.
A little bit. So what's the RSI's come off nicely? That's what you want to see.
Yeah. So it's basically gathering for another run at
And
new
now
highs.
what's the white line here? Is that white line is this 20-day,
Yeah.
and the blue line is the
50-day.
50-day. Okay, so this is a nice little development here. You've got a nice breakout move, but And this line's starting to turn up, which is really crucial.
That's the 200-day.
Yeah. So we got calls. I got a couple calls tomorrow, but we want to keep in touch with Mark Godsey on this one.
Yeah. Okay. What else were we looking at? Should we jump to the? Let's take a look at the old High Hampton because it had a good day.
High Hampton, and yesterday I said right on this show, this doesn't look good.
Back above 50.
And look at this, nice move on good volume. And I like this development here. We went up below the band. Look at this. Below the band, now back through the band, and a nice green candle.
Yeah.
And I think the volume is substantially more than the average volume we've had. So something might be changing there. A different approach, a different view. So that's good. That's good.
Right. Okay, so High Hampton. Let's take a look at our old friends at Chiron, KHRN. I haven't really been hearing from them much. Oh, what?
That's probably just on the V. Take out the CNX.
Oh, that's right. It is.
It's like having a proofreader on like right here.
It is. Whoa.
There you go.
Okay, let's cut down to the 3-month because that's obviously all that matters. So, hasn't really been doing much. You know what? The one thing that we got to add to this thing is volume.
Yes, volume by not volume by price, but volume by Bollinger Bands.
Lower indicator, volume.
Where do you see lower indicator?
There we go. So yeah, the volume's dried up here.
Let's move. Can we move the screen up a bit? Because your volume's.
Okay, what I have to do that is I have to go like this. Okay.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
we go.
So that you don't see any unusual volume there, do you? Like you really a little bit in here.
Good background volume.
But it's trading steadily.
Yeah. Look at the RSI is just flat at 42.
Yeah. You know what? That's not giving you any clues.
Yeah. So technically, this chart's saying no buy, no sell it, just hang on and wait.
It seems to be in a sideways pattern. That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
And we want to watch it to find out something changes. But something could change very quickly.
Yeah.
Somebody may want to buy it because they got those relationships in Colombia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, it's beer o'clock. No.
Beer o'clock. To flesh out the Aurora story, we talked to James Burns, who's the CEO of Alcanna. And Alcanna has 242 stores. They're the largest private liquor vendor in Canada. They're changing the names of their stores to Aurora, who owns 25% of them, with the right to buy up to 40% of them.
No kidding.
So Aurora actually has a head start in the whole retail space in Alberta, in Manitoba, and they'll also be in Ontario soon enough. Here's what James Burns had to say to us. Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is James Burns. He is the CEO of Alcanna Inc., trading on the TSX under the symbol CLIQ. James, welcome.
Thank you.
James, tell me, what does Alcanna do?
At the moment, we are the largest private retailer of liquor in Canada. I think we're probably number 2 in North America.
Wow. So you provide alcohol to retail stores, or do you own the retail stores in the whole?
We own the retail stores ourselves.
Okay. So in what provinces do you operate?
Alberta, BC, and Alaska.
Okay. How many locations altogether?
Oh, it changes by the week, but you open some, you close some, but around 230.
Wow. So you are about to become a distributor of cannabis where permissible by law.
Correct.
And so all of those locations are going to carry products from which providers?
Well, it's up to every province will be a little different because in Alberta and British Columbia, the the regulators will be the one purchasing the products from the suppliers. So it's actually their decision. In Alberta, they've chosen for year one 13 LPs to buy from. So we will have to buy from what the government makes available.
I see.
We're not allowed to contract directly with a licensed producer.
I see. And Alcanna is owned in part by a licensed producer?
That's correct. Aurora Cannabis owns 25% of our company.
Uh-huh. And do they have the right to increase that ownership?
Yes, they have warrants. They can go to up to 40% if they exercise those warrants.
Interesting. So this is obviously a business that is revenue positive, profitable?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so as a publicly traded company, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with it at this
Sure.
point, but do you pay a dividend?
We do. Yeah, the company traditionally had been, it was a private company. It became an income trust when that vehicle was popular a few
Right.
years back. When that was shut down, it switched over its distribution to a dividend.
Okay.
And had traditionally been a relatively low growth dividend paying stock.
Okay.
Which we are trying to communicate to the public and to the world, to our shareholders, that the company is changing and will change into a very high growth oriented investment with heavy capital and people expenditures in the early year or two here. We have an exceptionally strong balance sheet thanks to Aurora and thanks to selling off some of our American assets that we used to
Right.
do business in.
So you're deeply experienced in the distribution of liquor and adult consumable products.
Yeah, controlled substances, and we've been doing this for a very long time.
Oh, okay. So do you look at what's happening in Ontario right now and sort of look at and say, okay, here's our next opportunity?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you've got now the cash and the partnerships to, fill up the country with these stores?
Yes, no, exactly. Ontario has announced, as you know, that they are going to go to a private cannabis retail network instead of the public sector one that the previous government had chosen. There's no details yet as to how that's going to be rolled out and exactly what any individual retailer is allowed to do and so on. But we are very prepared and ready to go for whatever regime they put in place. We've got our real estate. We have great relationships with landlords across the country, and Canada's Canada. So
Right.
a few big landlords have same ones out west that are here.
Right.
So we're talking to them right now. We have actually, to be honest with you, we had our boots on the ground the day after the election, both for the liquor side, as the Ford government has also announced that they are going to be moving to some sort of a private model in liquor as well.
Right.
Again, details to be known, and whatever the government chooses to do in terms of retail regime for cannabis and liquor, we'll be ready if we're able. Very exciting for us.
Yeah. In Nova Scotia, the liquor store is attached to there's one side is the liquor store, one side is the cannabis store, which I thought was interesting because I thought federally the mandate was to not have liquor for sale where cannabis was for sale.
Yeah, that's the government and the government, so I guess they can do what they want. We were certainly anticipating, we have a lot of locations in Alberta, and if we could have demised a wall down the middle and had half the store doing one, half the other, it would have been more cost effective, but that's not permitted in Alberta. So, and some municipalities you're not allowed to, you have to be separation of certain distance between a cannabis and a liquor. So it is what it is. We're fine. Yeah.
Right. What was the last dividend you paid?
We paid about 4% yield.
4%.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it an income stock, doesn't it?
Well, it is a bit, and it traditionally has been, and I believe a lot of our shareholders, do buy it for the income. But going forward, it's a very heavy growth. I mean, the company is not well capitalized till about a year ago, and so it was able to renovate stores, to do things on a very gradual basis, because just as capital became available, that's completely changed now. So we have the capital to grow the best parts of the liquor business, and obviously to expand into cannabis in Alberta, BC, hopefully Ontario, and any province where we're able to, because we have the expertise is there. We have the back of house already in Edmonton.
Right.
150 people who know how to run stores and who have all a day-to-day hard work. That's all set up.
Wow.
Adding 10 or 20 or 40 more isn't that difficult.
Right. So with Aurora rather, as a major shareholder in the company, the government chooses which suppliers are eligible to be chosen from, but there's obviously going to be an inclination on your part to carry Aurora or feature Aurora products.
Absolutely, and we're proud to do so. We believe, we've done our diligence as well, and we had other choices of licensed producers to have gone down the road with, and we were thrilled to have Aurora be the one that we finally came to terms with in February, because it's Alberta's Alberta, hometown, just down the road.
Right.
And they've got these world-class sky class facilities which they're building. I was in the one in Edmonton just last week, and it's just mind-boggling, the quality and the consistency and the part of the market that they're going to be able to provide. At the end of the day, retail's retail. You can't tell customers what to buy.
Right.
They'll tell you what they want to buy.
Right.
So you target segments of markets and different. But for the quality and for the higher end products and for the best of the best and the consistency, Aurora, in our view, will be the market leader. Our stores are going to be called Aurora.
Right.
So
okay.
so we will obviously really try to feature those products, and Albertans in particular likes to support hometown.
Right.
And but we'll also be a house of brands. We'll carry any products that fit the demographics of our customers that our customers wish, which Aurora is absolutely fine with, and that encourages.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so that's interesting. So I didn't realize that Aurora's actually already got a retail footprint in 3 provinces, with more to come in Ontario.
Yeah, through our stores. I mean, we own the stores. We're on the license and we're on the lease and all that stuff. But they're called Aurora, and part of the investment, it was Aurora's choice of what the name would be, the brand, and they chose that, and we're thrilled they did. So that's a great honor for us, frankly, to be given the responsibility to look after and present to the public their brand, but it's in our hands, so it's a big responsibility. But we're thrilled that they gave us that chance. So I think we'll both do really well by it.
Yeah, no, this is the first opportunity I've seen in the cannabis market where you're a profitable company with major revenue and presence who pays a dividend. So it's the first cannabis income.
Well, I guess so. I think a lot of those companies have a very large market cap, but they're just getting started in terms of their operations.
Right.
And we've been on for long. We do 22 million transactions a year and $600 million of revenue, and make good money already. So and we have the ability, both operationally and financially, to get into cannabis in a major way fast, but profitably fast and efficiently. We won't have the growing pains. It's just a few more stores. It's the fundamentals of retail is the fundamentals of retail.
Sure. So are these stores going to be good to go October 17th?
You know what? It's all about development permits in municipalities, and every municipality has put a different regime and is taking a different length of time to decide who can put stores up and where. So it's really based on that. If it was just left up to market forces, if we were selling running shoes, yes, we would have them all up. It's not. So it's taking time. We'll probably have maybe 4 or 5 on October 17th, just by way of the permits that we've been able to get going. But we'll have, we'll have. In Alberta, you can only have 37 any one company in the first year. So they've just restricted so no one gets too big too fast. And we anticipate we'll have all 37 up and running sometime early in the new year.
Wow. It's a fascinating story, and I plan to actually become an investor, I can tell you. So it's been great to talk to you, James.
Well, thank you so much.
And we will be happy to have you back on October 17th or thereabouts to hear how the whole rollout is going.
Rolls out. I'd love to come. Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Okay, cheers.
Out of the loser. That's how you have to think.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Whoa!
Whoa.
So that's Aurora.
You know what?
It's
You
got
said
like
that- you said
242 stars already. Can you believe that?
I know, that's
I can't believe
impressive.
that. That's
So
like they're ahead in the horse race.
They're ready to go, are they?
They're ready to go. It's just a matter of time till this thing reverses. You know, the reason I bought 10,000 shares today of Aurora?
To watch it closer?
No, because they're going to announce the deal with Australis where every shareholder...
How do you know that?
Because he told me in the interview that they're going to announce the date of record, and then every shareholder of Aurora is going to get a free share and a free warrant of Australis per every so many shares of Aurora held.
For so many?
For so many. With the
So
formula
is that
has not
what
been
it says right in the for so many?
No, there hasn't been a press release yet. They're saying according to a formula yet to be announced, that will be announced on the day of record. So this transaction's been announced. But you're going to get a free share of, or maybe not a whole free share for share, but you get some measure. I want to see what that looks like.
Can I just throw something out here for everybody's edification?
Yeah.
Edification.
Edification.
not ratification. So sometimes when these things get to market capitalization, basically the number of shares times the market price, if the number gets so big, people start to say, well, if this is worth $7 billion, how do I know it's worth 7? Maybe it's only worth 6, or maybe it's only worth 8. But it gets harder to move the needle. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's why I like playing in the junior space and getting in early, beating the drum. But a lot of money has been made already and lost.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I want to say.
That's it. Huh. All right. So the last thing we're going to watch today, Ed, is we had an award ceremony for a naming contest for Micron Waste Technologies cannabis digester. And it is a device that is going to reduce the cost of waste treatment after the crop has been harvested, which is a component in the value chain of cannabis production.
You mean there'll be less?
So this machine, well, tell you what, let's let this clip tell you what we learned today about this machine.
What's going on?
Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. In this segment, we're doing something brand new. We're having a talk show style discussion, and my first guests ever in this format are Cam Battley, Chief Corporate Officer from Aurora Cannabis Inc., and our special guest is Noelle Skodzinski, and she is the what was the title again, Noelle?
Editorial Director.
Editorial Director of Cannabis Business Times and Cannabis Dispensary. Hold those up. These are the magazines that are taking the United States by storm, and we're going to see them here soon too, aren't we?
We already do.
It's a both North American publications, so
Okay.
they're here.
Well, see, I'm behind the times. Noelle, why don't we start with you? What promoted you, or what incentivized you to start a magazine surrounding cannabis in the United States at a time when it's still federally prohibited?
So the legislation started happening so things started in California, in the mid-90s, and then after about 2008, 2010, things just started really picking up and spiraling as far as legalization, mostly medically. And it just, for me, I've been an editor for 20-some years, and the co-founder and I, the man who was the publisher of it, and I started as the founding editor, both felt it was kind of an advocacy thing, but we both come from B2B publishing, and we thought that really these businesses, especially under a federally illegal program, have so many challenges, and they had such a need for information, and especially even on the horticulture side. So Cannabis Business Times is for the professional cultivator. It's everyone from the owners. They may be the head growers as well, the head cultivators. So we do horticulture and business information.
It's a great magazine.
Thank you. And even horticulturally speaking, there's not this, there's not universities who've been researching this plant and developing all these, research-proven techniques for maximizing yields and terpenes and cannabinoids. And so we go into cultivation information. We have PhDs who write for us from the mainstream agriculture, and we're starting to look at ways that North American growers, largely in the U.S., because there's more of them there, can apply mainstream agriculture because they're under pressure to increase their productivity. They need to bring their costs down significantly. I mean, every market that's going recreational is just seeing price drops very rapidly. So they really need to start implementing these. So that was kind of the impetus for starting it.
And you guys were very early. You were very early to this, recognizing that there was a need for real, serious, professional publishing coverage of this emerging industry. That wasn't all snickers and winks and nods, but it was serious business. And,
Right.
and
So
you've
when
done a
did
really
it
good job.
start?
2014 is when we launched as a website and a newsletter first, and then we were actually bought by GIE Media, which is the B2B publishing company in Cleveland. And they have this history in B2B publishing in the mainstream agriculture market. They publish greenhouse management, produce grower, nursery management, so it just was such a perfect fit. And it's a wonderful company, and through that we were able to, so we launched the print magazine in 2015 of Cannabis Business Times. It's been monthly for 2+ years now. And then last November, we saw a very dire need among retailers. There is no publication that focused on helping cannabis dispensaries navigate this very tricky business, everything from taxes to compliance to safety and security. There's so many issues that they face.
And it has a centerfold too, which I think is really interesting.
Well,
don't show that.
so Cam, as a major cannabis market participant, one of the largest in the world, has this provided to be a valuable resource for elements of your organization?
Absolutely, and more than that, the move by Cannabis Business Times and other publications into serious coverage is further validation of just how mainstream cannabis has become. This is a trend, obviously, that's been accelerating over the last few years. And the interesting thing is that there's such a thriving cannabis publication business happening in the U.S. where they haven't figured out, they haven't quit playing Hamlet as to are we going to make this thing federally legal or not. I can't say that I'm crushed by that fact. If there's a little bit more delay that gives us more time at Aurora and some of the other leading companies to establish our world leadership, it's okay with me. But you do know that we have our eyes very squarely on that market. It's an enormous market and very, very interesting.
Well, so you've got quite a large interest in a company called Australis, and from the external optics, one might even say that Australis has superior access to capital by virtue of Aurora's shareholding. And so what is the status of deprohibition in the United States from where you guys sit in the industry?
Do you want to take a first crack at this? Because let's have our U.S. guest.
Sure.
Start with the American.
I mean, I think that the political climate around legalization is far behind the public mindset around legalization. I mean, every single poll every year, it's just increasing in support of decriminalization, legalization. I mean, medically, the numbers are 70+% of the population in the United States is in favor of medical. Those numbers are now above 60% for legalization for adult use. So, I mean, with 70%, 60% of the country behind supporting this, the legislation has just been very slow. As far as predicting when things are going to turn, it's really, I don't know that anyone particularly knows. I'd be curious, just from you have boots on the ground kind of all over the U.S., probably working with some legislators, I would imagine. And I think that the Democrats have been largely more inclined to move this direction, but I think there's also a lot of pressure now on politicians. So people who are getting reelected or running for office for the first time, they are starting to understand that the public is very much behind this, and they need to start shifting their views. Otherwise, they're going to lose majority of the vote.
It's becoming a mainstream electoral issue. Just to be clear, we are not lobbying in the U.S. That's not our plan. Our plan is to spin off our U.S. assets, and that's why we're creating this company, Australis Capital Corporation, which very shortly we're going to be naming the record date for that. So people who want to participate in Australis as Aurora shareholders, who are going to receive, based on a ratio, they're going to receive a share and a warrant in Australis. If they want to participate, they've got to move fairly quickly, but we'll be announcing that record date fairly shortly, and very soon after that, listing on the CSE, so that we can participate, or our shareholders rather, can participate in the U.S. market. The reason why it's so interesting is that in aggregate, the U.S. is by far the largest cannabis market in the U.S., but in aggregate, it's a fractured market though, and that's what's so fascinating, and that's part of our investment theory here, is that because it's a fragmented market, because it's not a federally legal market, it's not one single national market, there are a number of assets that are undervalued, we think significantly undervalued, that we can, through Australis, we can acquire these assets at very attractive valuations and turn them into something that will be much bigger down the line. And of course, the whole plan involves this back-in right that will allow us, should the regulations change over the next 10 years, to back into 40% ownership of Australis. So we're planning ahead. We're keeping our eyes very, very close on the U.S. market, and it's where we want to be. It's where we plan to be in the future, subject to U.S. laws and regulations.
So, from what I'm hearing, then the potential range of dates to deprohibition, it could be in 3 months, it could be in 3 years, because it still doesn't have any solid form in a forward direction.
Right. I wouldn't expect 3 months, but I think that you're exactly right. I don't think that
Depends
it's very
on if somebody
clear.
tweets about it in
Well,
the next
that's
3
the
months.
thing. I think that right now, day to day, there are surprises in the
Right.
United States. So
Somebody
it
should
could be
whisper
3
in
months.
Donald Trump's ear that, if you really want to generate some positive press, executive order, legalize cannabis, and reconcile the disconnect between the FDA and the DEA in terms of having cannabis as a Schedule I drug on the controlled
Yep.
substances list.
Well, and he's a businessman. So, it's just been a little surprising to me that he kind of hasn't gotten a little more behind this politically, just for that and the economic impact that it's having in municipalities and on state levels. And
That's huge. That's
it's
huge. And I think
enormous.
that's ultimately what will be the persuader, not just in the U.S., but in multiple jurisdictions around the world. It's the economic development, the investment, the employment, and the innovation that's being driven by this sector. Whenever you invent a new industry, you're going to see these positive things. We're already seeing it across Canada, and it is transforming communities large and small. And we're creating new areas of science behind it. One of the reasons why we acquired Anandia Labs as well is for their deep cannabis science, for example. But I think that that's going to be persuasive not just in the U.S., it's going to be persuasive in multiple countries, and we're already seeing it. For example, not long ago we had a minister in a state government from Australia come to visit Aurora Sky. And she was coming to visit to learn about our medical cannabis regime, which has been used as a model for countries around the world, but also wanted to see what the company looks like, what the technology looks like. And she left, I think, exceedingly impressed as to the opportunities here, very specifically for significant new investment and employment and spin-off economic development. That's what's ultimately going to be the persuader. That plus, I think, the perception, or rather the understanding, that this is a significantly more benign substance than a lot of people have been thinking in the past. This is not tobacco, it's not alcohol, it's a lot safer than that.
Interesting. So at this point, it sounds to me like investing in the United States, which are not united on this issue at all, is more like investing in, at this point, I think it's 19 different small countries.
It's sort of like that, but it depends on what elements of the sector you're looking at. If it's technology, that's a different story, right? So producers are limited in what they can do. They can't produce in one state and sell it in another under the current regime. But the technologies, some of which are really, really exciting, everything from formulation to a million other things, to fulfillment, to there's technology around pre-rolled joints and so on. There's so many technological opportunities, and those things have worldwide potential. That's what we think is particularly interesting from an investment perspective, from an Australis perspective.
Right. In the state of California, we saw 80%, in some cases up to 80% of the product supply become uneligible for sale through the medical dispensary process or through the adult dispensary process because the tougher testing rules kicked in, and there's both a lack of testing capacity in California, and it's also been found that a lot of the growers don't measure up when it comes to non-use of pesticides and other banned substances. So is it safe to say that Australis going into the United States is not going to have that problem by virtue of its association at arm's length with Anandia Labs?
Anandia and all of the rest of the Aurora family. Absolutely. That pedigree goes with Australis. The experience of Aurora, the way we've assembled a fully integrated company, the reputation, the quality, the testing, the ability to operate under rigorous regulation. But I would say that it's beyond just Aurora. what you mentioned, I think, is important because some of the U.S. states have taken a much more relaxed approach to regulation in the past. And so we see a very large number of producers, not all of which are capable of producing cannabis under rigorous regulation and testing requirements like we have in Canada. And I think that's part of the Canadian advantage, is because of the Health Canada regulations, the tightness of those regulations we've operated under. It's part of Canada's reputation around the world with respect to cannabis. So when Aurora and Canopy and other leading companies move internationally, we take that sterling Canadian reputation with us. It's part of the Canadian advantage, I would say. Do you agree?
I do to a certain extent, and I think in a lot of states, yes. But again, because it's so fragmented, there are states that have very strict pharmaceutical level standards. Connecticut's one of them, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, even to the dispensary level, they're required to have a doctor on site, a pharmacist on site. So it is this patchwork, but they have very strict regulations in certain markets, and where they limit the number of producers, and they really have to meet their, it's a medication, and some of those states are taking it at
That's
that
the right
level
way to go.
yes.
That's the right way to go.
Right.
And
So-
ultimately, it'd be interesting to see if that approach becomes national in the U.S., if the U.S. does move to a nationally legal system.
I mean, I think eventually it's going to have to get closer to that, even on a consumer level, because it's a consumer product, and you can't have this loose framework around it.
Even not as a medicine, but
Yep,
just as a
yep,
consumer
you
product.
have to.
You can't have contaminated product
Right.
out there. You can't take the risk of people
No.
getting ill. I mean, we have regulations around meat and milk and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to have regulations around something that people consume either by combustion or ingestion, right?
For sure.
Interesting. Okay, well let's switch the focus, because it's interesting that we all happen to come together under
Yes.
a completely different set of circumstances, which resulted in this wonderful encounter. But we were basically chosen to be judges of a naming contest for the digesting machine that is the product of Micron Waste.
Right. Micron Waste's cannabis waste digester.
Okay, there's why we needed to come up with a name.
Right, right. Which is
was a
all very,
mouthful.
very correct, but it's
That's
not.
not so catchy.
No, it's not catchy or cute. So
Right.
yes, we are the judges. We're the deciders. We have to be
Right.
decisive.
Yes, well, it was interesting that we all more or less arrived at similar conclusions, because there was the one standout name that won was the Carnivore.
The Carnivore.
Yes.
Go ahead and
Carnivore.
say it.
Carnivore.
The Carnivore.
You
Carnivore.
wanna
Which is
say it
really
in
cool.
unison?
Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds like carnivore. It's an eater of cannabis. I thought that was very, very clever. So that's the winner.
Sure. And who was the person who put forward that name? It's
Oh, let's pull
Jack
it out.
Ponte of Ontario. I
Jack
guess.
Ponte. Jack, if you're watching, well done.
Well
Yes.
done, Jack.
Nice one.
Yeah,
Nice
Carnivore.
one. Carnivore. Now, but some of the other names are worthy. Like there's a 1, 2, and 3 that we've got that. But then there's others worthy of honorable mention, which we'll get to. But what were the numbers 2 and 3?
I think one of them was the
Canosaurus
Canosaurus Rex, which was pretty cute
Right.
and fun. We actually had a lot of fun doing this. There were just under 2,400 entrants in this contest, and
Really?
only one
2,400?
winner. Only one winner. So Jack gets a $2,000 US cash award for being the winner. But we had some really, really good ones, and some of the fun ones you and I were talking about earlier. You had one
The
particular.
potbelly
the
was
potbelly.
my favorite.
That
of
was pretty
which,
cute.
I liked a bunch of them. I liked the Dank Tank. The Dank
I love
Tank
that as well,
was
yeah.
good. And some of them.
The Weed Eater was another
Weed
one
Eater.
that I liked.
Yep.
With obvious trademark challenges.
Yes. That one might have been a little bit tricky. I liked one. It was Uncanny, which I thought was kind of neat, because the digester, essentially what it does is you throw in the cannabis waste. It digests it using Micron's microbes, its proprietary set of microbes, and then out the other end comes gray water, right? But that gray water, which meets all the municipal effluent standards, and that's what makes this digester so cool, is also denatured. So the active pharmaceutical ingredients are removed. So Uncanny, I thought, was quite clever as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
So
It shows people are paying attention.
yeah,
Yes,
you
they
bet.
are.
So then the purpose of the machine is to save natural resources reduce costs in terms of waste disposal, and also conserve water, which is, a huge deal in especially places like California, Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what's the? You guys have one of the cannivores is now being installed at Aurora Sky.
Actually, not just being installed. We're almost done testing, and it's looking very, very good. So at our Aurora Mountain facility, an hour north of Calgary, we've been working with the Micron engineers on validating whether this cannivore will in fact work as anticipated in cannabis and be able to digest that cannabis waste. And it's very important because cannabis has some pretty tough stalks, right? That's tough fibrous material, and we needed to validate that. What I'm hearing is that it's going exceedingly well, and we anticipate having some results to announce fairly soon, within weeks. I think the last steps will be ensuring that the remote operation software is bang on. But the beauty of it, and the reason why we were interested and why Aurora made a strategic investment in Micron Waste, is that it ticks off a lot of boxes for us. We have this cannabis waste, and currently cannabis waste from licensed producers is disposed of in a number of ways, everything from incineration to composting to the so-called kitty litter method, where the cannabis waste is mixed with cat litter and water to make it unusable, and then sent off to landfills. Yep. But this digester works on site. It's small, compact, and you throw the cannabis waste in, you get clean water out the other end. There's no need to transport it. There's no need to incinerate it. It reduces greenhouse gas emissions, and it gives us water that can go back into the system. So it's environmentally friendly, cheaper, greener, more convenient. What's better than that?
No kidding. So do you anticipate that this is going to be a device that all the cannabis growers are going to want to consider putting into their process?
I'm told by Micron that they're getting calls all the time from licensed producers, and not just Canadian cannabis companies, but cannabis producers and prospective producers in the U.S. and around the world.
Right.
So it's obviously a very timely solution, and the interesting thing is that's just one of the markets that Micron is targeting. They're also targeting very large markets like supermarket waste and fast food waste. Okay. This one just happens to be cannabis specific, and it allowed us to have some fun.
Yeah. So what's happening with all the cannabis waste now?
It's all being sent to your house at the end of the week.
I was wondering what that big pile was I had to climb every day to get to the front door.
Yeah, so like I say, some of it is incinerated, and there are challenges with that. A lot of it is composted at municipal compost locations. But that's problematic too, because anytime you have to truck waste anywhere, you're creating additional greenhouse gas emissions, and you're also creating additional cost. And the other thing about when you compost cannabis, it can take a month or more. Right. Whereas the digester is able to process all of that waste in 24 to 48 hours. So it's faster, doesn't create the smell, and it's a very, very elegant solution to a challenge that is increasing as the cannabis industry grows.
And I'm assuming that that the composting of cannabis, that process in and of itself generates methane, which is one of the most virulent greenhouse gases that we have to deal with.
Significantly more so than carbon dioxide.
Right.
And the other interesting thing is this: the digestion of the cannabis waste in the digester. One of the things it does create is some carbon dioxide. You're going to have to deal with that whenever you're dealing with organic waste materials. But actually, future versions of this digester may be able to capture that carbon dioxide, and guess which industry uses carbon dioxide to enhance yields? That would be us.
Cannabis.
So there's a lot of future potential there too. It's pretty exciting.
Okay, that's great. Thank you guys very much for joining me. Before we go though, Noelle, how do we buy Cannabis Dispensary magazine and Cannabis Times magazines?
So they're both actually free to qualified subscribers. So if you are a
Would he qualify?
You may not qualify. I'll try to get you on a special list.
Oh, okay.
But,
I am going to grow 4 plants. And I used to have quite a bit of I was actually one of the first commercial growers in BC. Oh. No, I'm not serious about that.
So yes, it's free. So if you are a cultivator or a dispensary in North America, you can sign up on our websites, cannabisbusinesstimes.com and cannabisdispensarymag.com. So we also have Newsletters, we just increased the frequency of our newsletter for Cannabis Business Times to 3 times a week because there's so much news to cover in North America. There's so much happening that we just have to keep updating people. So we've got free newsletters that anyone can subscribe to. We've got digital editions in the magazine. You can download the app in the Android store of the magazines, you know, the websites. And
I can recommend it. It's a good read.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me both. We'll be back right after this.